Thanks for coming. We're super excited to have this class because it tells about our journey and the things that we've done throughout our life. The fun, the bad, the good, the ugly. No, but
I'm not sharing here.
I know. So this would be his side of the story. I had a whole different side of the story. So anyway, I might raise my hand a few times. Just kidding. I'll never do that to you. But anyway,
I just read something that's really funny on the story thing. It's like talking about relationships. It's kind of like a house, a two-story house. She's got her story and I've got mine.
Anyway.
Yeah, right.
Thank you so much for your support coming to listen. I hope you get something great out of what he has to share. We've always been super passionate about real estate since the time we met. That is the thing that kind of connected us. Our very first conversation meeting, 34
meeting. I called it a date.
Our first date. We talked about real estate, and and it was kind of cool to find somebody that thought like each other when we were 21 years old. So anyway, Jeff Marchant.
Oh wow, thank you.
Yes.
Let me turn this off. Ashley, tell me if I do this right. I know, 4.5 years, and I just figured out this has been sitting in my drawer all this time. And we're looking at the video recording sometimes when you're looking at the playback, and we used to have that just facing right here. You couldn't see the screen. The lighting sucks in here, and anyway. So yeah, we're getting high tech. Thanks, guys. Glad you're here. You're good, Ash? I've got my sister-in-law in the back and my mother-in-law in the back. Get to know them. Okay, let me get situated. No, it's all right. It's all right. I'm used to this. This doesn't even bug me anymore. This is okay. I am not going to be able to get through 33 years of history in an hour. So we're going to talk, about some mindset stuff. But I want to start with, who here owns rental properties? Ooh, cool. Half the room. Who owns more than 5 rental properties? Okay, cheater. I was looking for somebody else. The reason I ask that is because if you don't have rental properties, we're all in real estate of some sorts. We got lenders, we got real estate agents, right? Start now. If you have 2, 3, 4, obviously you're somewhere between 1 and 5. Start getting that next one and take people on the journey with you. The reason Lynn and I have such a fabulous referral business is people want to join us on our journey. They want to do what we've done or what we're doing. So take people on that journey. If you don't have a rental property, talk about it. I'm getting my first one. And I was going to use Ian as an example. He's not here because I was thinking about what. Oh my goodness. You're like the invisible man behind Eric. Ian, so now I have to change my words a little bit because you're here, but no, just kidding. Speaking of taking people on the journey, I've had some conversations with Ian lately. And Ian, this is an idea for you. This is another $1 million idea. We've talked about some deals that he's been looking at, the numbers, the location, is it going to work for a flip and stuff? You've gone out there and toured these videos. What if you took your camera and you took people with you on that tour and then you talked about it? The conversation is, why did you buy it? What was the process of that you got it? Or why did you pass on it? Why didn't you get it? Another step further, and you're good with this, like with your trail talks and stuff like that. That's why I wanted to use an example. You invite people to come on hikes with you, right? What if you invited some of your past clients or some of your friends, neighbors, potential clients to go on that walkthrough with you, right? How many of you here know Jordy Clark? He's kind of in our world a little bit. I saw a post of his, it's probably been a year or more ago. He went through one of his flips. Here's what's cool about it. He talked about the remodel, but it was like, this is what I would do if I was keeping it as a rental. This is what I'm going to do if I'm selling it retail as a flip. It's different. If you're going to hold it as a rental, you want it to be new, nice, clean. If you're retailing it, there's a different process to get top dollar, right? I'm already almost a gallon in, by the way, guys. I'm doing 75 hard. I've lost 5 pounds in my face. Serious, I think so. So I started with this slide because I'm super proud of my family. A lot of you here know them. We're all in real estate. I mean, who would have thunk when they were younger that they would actually follow us into this crazy world? But so I want to start with a quick background story. Like I said, there's a lot of history here, and I'm going to give you some specific examples along the way. But Lynn and I, she alluded to it, we started when we were 21 years old, and we bought our first property. We set a goal at that time. It's like, hey, if we bought one property, why not buy one a year, right? At that time, we had a landscape company, and so we're very entrepreneurial. We started our own business, and we're investing on the side, and we built a pretty handsome portfolio. By 2005, we're 36 years old, and we had a portfolio of 60 properties. So that was super, super awesome in 2005 and 2006 and 2007, and it absolutely sucked in 2008 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. So, you know, it's just a part of our story, right? And then 2009, as the market shifted, was, you know, where it was, and I wanted to get back into investing, Lynn was having nothing to do with it. And so I tell people all the time, I chose to stay married versus get back into investing. And that's when I got my real estate license. So I got my real estate license in 09, and then we were with Keller Williams for 10 years, and we moved to EXP about 5 years ago. That started a whole nother journey. So I'm gonna kind of talk a little bit about some of the stuff as we move forward. But one thing that I figured out early through all those phases is to have that unique selling proposition, right? We've all heard that. What's your unique selling offers? What makes you different, right? So in landscaping, here's what I figured out. I was going to do these proposals and do bids for people, and they were all bitching and complaining about the previous contractors they've worked with. They were all fearful and leery that somebody's going to take their down payment money and never come back. It was so prevalent back then. So what did I do? 100% on completion was my pitch. I never charged a deposit. I never charged for materials. I'm confident in my professionalism, and my business is established enough. I can carry the materials. You don't owe me a dime until the job is done, and you're 100% happy, and then you write me a check. I got a lot of jobs just because of that. They didn't even know if I sucked or not, but they were just like, I don't have to pay them if it's not good, right? So then in my investing, as I was doing the same thing, right? A lot of investors, those of you that are investors and are dealing with for sale by owners or those in default, you're familiar with subject to and all-inclusive trust deeds and trying to take ownership creatively through creative financing without having to use banks and your own money and stuff like that. So my unique selling proposition was, don't give me the deed. That's stupid. You should never give the deed to the property of somebody else, and you're still liable for your loan. If they screw up, you have to foreclose on them. So I would say, lease it to me. Because if I screw up, you get to evict me. Much easier. So I'm giving them an option that is a win for them, but it's also a win for me because I controlled the property without ownership. The only thing I lost was depreciation expense, right? But I separated myself from everybody else. I always say, never follow the herd. Whoever follows the herd has to deal with a lot of shit. Kind of funny, huh? So do things that are different. When you go in, it's almost like I was discrediting every other investor that had come before me and that they talked to after. It's like, I ain't giving you the deed to my house. What are you talking about? Except for those sly sons of bitches that slide it in there and they sign it, and the seller didn't really know that they signed it. that happened too. So I set myself apart there. Then the next phase of my career is I got my real estate license. It was in 09. What was happening in 09? Everybody was losing their houses, right? There was foreclosures everywhere. 8 out of 10 houses on the street were vacant and overgrown, and it was just ridiculous. So people were contacting these people and saying, investors are saying, I want to buy your house. Real estate agents are saying, I want to sell your house. And they're going, I want to keep my house. You know, I don't want these options. So what did I do? I led with, I don't want to buy your house, and I don't want to list your house. I want to see if I can help you save your house and stay in it. So Lynn and I help people do modifications. And guess how much money we made doing that? Zero. Well, directly related to doing that, we made zero. But here's the interesting thing, guys. When you do something for somebody else that has their benefit, literally only their benefit as your objective, they refer you. They're talking to their friends at work and say, hey, I got a new loan. One of our people got a 40-year amortization at a 2% loan on a modification. Saved his almost $2 million house, okay? What do you think those conversations were like when they said they saved their house? And they said, well, how did you do that? And they say, my realtor helped me do it. And naturally, realtors don't do that, right? A realtor helped you save your home. So anyway, we got their high school friends, we got their coworkers, we got their people at their church, their neighbors, this and that, and our referral business just went boom. So want you to kind of think of that. So that's what I'm going to kind of leave with you guys, is just some things to think a little bit differently. Uh-oh. I might have to click this button every single time. Throw that to Ashley, see if she can give me a new battery. Okay, I'm going to give you some things to ponder. We can have some discussion and stuff as we get towards the end or whatever. This isn't all going to be about, I did this deal and I did this deal and this is why we're successful, but it was a mindset thing that I believe that things that we did, like the thinking different and having a unique selling proposition in our landscaping and in our investing in our real estate, it gave us that talking point and a passion and a purpose behind what we did. So ponder on this. It's like we make a living by what we do for work. We make a life by what we do after work. That was our mantra, is I landscaping by day, real estate investing by nights and weekends and in the off season. And that's how we built what we built. So here's what I hope you to kind of take away, kind of setting that up, is just developing the right mindset. I'm going to give you some quotes like that that affected me, that as I lived by those principles, it made decisions easy. Decisions are easy because people are confused today, right? And when you're looking at investing, sometimes that can be confusing as well. So I want you to regain, if you've lost it because of the market conditions, that real estate is the path. It's, in my opinion, one of the only paths to a safe, secure, predictable retirement. We learned that in our early 20s and we're living it now. It just took time to get there, right? So again, you can see the slide there, the understanding of the saying, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. I think where a lot of people get hung up with real estate investing is instant gratification. You know, the wholesaling and the flipping is sexy and there's dollars attached to it that you can use immediately and this and that. But guys, that's just a job. It's a transaction and you have to do the next one. So when you're holding properties and you're building a portfolio, sometimes there is no gains to supplement your living expenses and your income. Nope, I'm going to change the slide and then you can do whatever you're trying the battery. Okay, Riker. Can you show me where on this slide, this is from before the 1980s to today, this is the median home price in the Salt Lake, the housing index for Salt Lake, the rise in home prices. Where on that are we all glad we didn't buy? No. Anybody? There isn't one, Riker. Hey, I was going to point to my slide. So we're here, right? So, and even looking back in 2008, we bought our house in 2006. So in 2008, 9, and 10, we were like, shit, we bought our house in 2006. So there's this dip right here, right? This is the longest and the biggest dip since before 1980, right? But guess what? We recovered right here. We were back to even, and then look what happened. So in hindsight, looking back, we could say, I would have loved to have bought 10 properties in 2008, because look what they're worth today, right? It's just time in the market, right? Don't wait to buy real estate and wait. I talked to a lot of people, including my sister-in-law's knucklehead husband. When he bought a house, I'm like, dude, you got to buy 2. So as time went by, and it's like this nest egg was growing in his primary residence, and like, I'm kind of an ass, right? And I'm like, don't you wish you would have bought 2? Don't you wish you would have bought 2? But it's true, right? Oh, it's still not. No worries. So anyway, that's just something I want you to consider, because we may be here, but is it somewhat predictable where we're going? Especially here in Salt Lake, Utah. Prices. How about the devaluation of the dollar affecting purchasing power and stuff like that? So prices, if I'm a betting man, I'm betting they're going up over time. So today is tomorrow's yesterday. We're all saying, oh, I wish I would have bought in 2011. I wish I would have bought in 2020 when everybody was scared shitless. Look what happened from 2020 to now, right? There was a lot of fear out there, but people won that got in the game. I think everybody in here is going to look back and say, man, why didn't I get something in 2024? You know, so consider that. Sorry, I got to move faster. This should have been like a 5-hour thing. Okay, this to me has a little bit to do with like legacy. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago, right? Because of time. Got it? Here's another slide I want you to consider. This is showing the increase, the change in home value after a 10-year period. 1945 to 1955, 122%. You can look at all those times. There's been one 10-year period since 1942 that home prices did not go up. See that right over there, 2006, as far as where they were to where they got to in 10 years. But consider this is the total value. This is using numbers based on a $100,000 increments, right? Apply that to whatever you want. $1 million home, $500,000 home, whatever. This is showing the total home price increase. What is one of the greatest things about real estate though? Leverage. You could buy these properties for 5, 10, 20% down. So you take these kind of returns on the total value of the home. What does that do to your return on your investment of your down payment? What you invested in the deal. You don't get that anywhere else. Not even in crypto. I'm learning you have to pay what it's worth. You don't get to put a down payment on it, right? So leverage is really a big thing. And this is one of my favorite quotes. Don't be upset about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. Okay, I'll just leave you with that. That applies in your life however it applies. Did you almost say something, Eric? Or was that? Oh.
That's me. I said don't change it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want me to go back? Okay.
You just said this is like one of the greatest ones, and then you wanted to go change it.
This is one of the greatest ones, and I'm out. Okay, here's some other things to ponder. Do you think it's harder to get into real estate today than it used to be? Do you wish you had started sooner? You know, these questions are going through your mind. Who else is thinking about these things? It's our clients. They're all thinking these things. Do you believe we face challenges that others don't? Do you believe that we are too late? You missed the opportunity. And do you think home prices will go up or down over the next 20 years? Our clients are kind of like thinking these things, and we need to help them navigate that. So I'm going to go all the way back, like Lynn mentioned, in 1991 when we bought our first property, because I want to give you some examples of what time does. I think people look too finitely, too narrow, too tunnel vision at what's going on today. Oh, it was better yesterday. Oh, the interest rates used to be 3. My son has an interest rate in the 2s on his house, right? So his friends are like, oh, I can't, I should have, I could have. So whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. Probably everybody in this room has heard that before. The reason I mention this one is because when Lynn and I first got together, call it naive, just excited about life, whatever it was, we were just like, we can do whatever we want to do. And it's just like, let's just plan our future. We ain't got shit, so we can only go up from here, right? We literally didn't have anything. And so it was really exciting just to make an incremental small win. So this is our very first property. Somebody keep track of the time, because this could go like 3 hours. I'll try and go faster. 23. Oh, shit. I got too many slides. This is a condo down in Provo. The reason I'm showing you this is, for one, it was our first property, but we bought it after filing our first year's combined, joint income tax return of a grand total of $8,000 income combined. Okay, Riker minimum wage was $3.35, just to give you a reference there. We were part-time employees. We met in the mall, working at a clothing store in the mall. That's where, kind of a cool fun fact. But the next year, what's that?
Retail's so romantic.
Oh, I know, it was. No, it was Jay Riggins. Hell yeah. She got a job there to meet boys, and I got a job there to get discount on clothes. Very, very temporary. Spend all my paycheck on clothes. I wore more than black back then. So here's how that happened. That's why I put that quote up there, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right? We knew we wanted to buy a home. Nothing was going to stop us. So we're out there in the game. We're active, like we're out looking at properties. We're calling agents and they're hanging up on us and they're asking us very basic questions. And it's like, no, we don't got any credit. No, we don't got any money, but we'll figure it out, right? And it's like, sorry, honey, call me back, when you figure it out, type of a thing. So we're out there looking at properties wherever we could. It's just like I said, be in the game. We were in the market. We're out there looking at things. So I'm looking at a condo in, not this is the one we bought. We were looking at one over here, window shopping, basically, daydreaming, setting our manifestation, our attraction, attention, whatever you want to call it. And as we walk out of that condo, this lady's putting up a sign, just literally putting a sign in the front yard of hers, Coldwell Banker, she was the broker. And she's like, hey kids, if you like that property, come and look at mine. And we literally told her, and some of you have heard this before, so for the benefit of those of you who don't, the point is we were just out there. So she pulls us over and the first thing we tell her is, oh, we can't buy, we're just looking. And she said, that's okay, come on, I want to show you, it's great. I just put in new carpet, the basement's finished, it's way better than theirs. And she toured us through the whole thing. And at the end, she's like, what do you think? Like we'll take it. We do whatever. We can't buy it. It's like, it's great. I would love to buy it, right? And it's like, we can't get a loan. We have no money. And she said, you know what she said? She said, that's okay. Just take over my loan. And we literally like, wait, that's a thing? Who does that? You can just take over somebody's loan? Here's the cool thing. We literally took over her loan. She didn't wrap her loan. We took it over. It only had 17 years left on the amortization schedule. It had already been paid for us for 13 years. I don't remember what the interest rate was on that one, but when we first got our loan, it was 9%. Yeah, it probably was. It was probably higher than 9 because we thought we did a great thing by refinancing it to 9. But we took over that and it just like, okay, I almost said idea sex. Ashley's trying to get me to not say that. When you make two different ideas, it creates a whole new idea. That's the concept behind that. So sorry, I'm weird. But when you have something like that presented to you at 21 years old, we had a brand new Ashley was a brand new baby, like 3 months old. You were born in April. I think we bought this in July. And I realized I just paid for her college. Done with what I just did. If I just rent this property and pay off that mortgage, it's going to be free and clear when she's a senior in high school. How cool is that? So that really lit a fire under me. She already kind of had the bug because she's like a 4th generation realtor in her family. There's her mom right there, Barbara. Hi, Barbara. But that put us again on, okay, we had this dream. It's like, hey, if we can buy one, let's buy one a year, right? So I'm going to give you an example of cost too, because we're going back to 1991. It's a long time ago. I'm going to show you my second property. The only way we could do that is by sheer will, right? Just being out there. I would never have collided with her. Who knows when I would have heard about seller finance? When would we have bought? Maybe when we were 30. I don't know.
That is, we didn't even look at what the economy was doing. We didn't know it was the worst time to buy. We had no idea. We just knew we wanted real estate.
Yep.
So that went through our mind at all.
I had a vision. So first property, $48,500. She wanted $5,000 down. So we used Lynn's whole student loan and maxed out a credit card.
Just FYI.
Hey, this is 1991.
That is true. You can do whatever you want.
Hey, if the government's going to think she's a business and give her a loan, I can use it for whatever I want. Well, back then. So that worked really, really well for us. So let's go to the second home. I had to take a picture out of a photo album because we don't have digital photos. This is actually after I cleared out all the debris and the brush. This is the front of the house. The carport used to come right in here in front of the house, and this was the carport, and it was all broken up concrete. So these are my trenches for sprinklers. Anyway, it was a shithole. It smelled like cat piss so bad you couldn't even walk through all the way through the house without running outside to catch a breath. Yes, the walls were like that nice orange rust, nicotine, patina, was that a thing?
When we took them through this house.
Yeah, it was, but here's my point. We bought what we could afford, not what we wanted. And we still couldn't get a loan. But again, that beautiful lady back there, Lynn's mom, co-signed for us. She had enough faith in us that she and Lynn's dad co-signed for us, and we were able to get a loan. And our whole thing was, okay, we're going to work our ass off. We're going to get qualified. We're going to build our credit, and we're going to refinance it and take you off. And we did in pretty short order. But she believed in us, and we on our own, we still couldn't have done that, right? So these are situations that I point out because everybody has a story. Everybody has a reason why they're not buying. Everybody has a reason why they don't have a rental property or whatever. But seriously, 21-year-old kids making $3.35 an hour, getting a house, come on. If that can work, and if you don't have a story like that, use mine, you know, when you're talking to people, because there's a way. It's called creative financing for a reason. You have to be creative sometimes if you want to get in the game and you cannot fit into the traditional conventional mold, right? So here's the numbers on that one. $59,000. That was we kind of moved up, right? And then a good thing I was a landscaper because that needed a lot of work. And we were only able to get that one because of cosigner. We still couldn't have done it on our own. So if we were just like relying on our own efforts, oh, I can't do it, you know, we believed that we can't, then we still wouldn't own a house. And here we are, 22, 23 years old, and we got two. We never even moved in this one. It was close to BYU. Back then, there was a housing shortage for students. So we had a $500 payment on this. It's 4 bedrooms, 3 bath. There's a basement to this as well. And we rented out 1 room to 2 students and then a single student to the other room. So 5 students, $1,100 a month. And our payment was $500. Pretty cool, huh? So what do you think these are worth today?
The left one, 800 to $1 million.
Pleasant Grove. Whatever they're worth today, it's about equivalent to what they cost in 1991 is my point. Okay? Things appear to get more expensive, but really our dollar is really weak. And especially the last couple of years, right? They've been printing trillions of dollars.
Well, no, you bought one of the.
One. I just bought one. Yep. I thought about it and I wanted to. I couldn't figure out there's only 20 in that $1 million. There's 20 units in this condo, 50 grand a piece. I'm thinking $1 million. I could own all 20 of them. And the reason I thought that correlates to what I just said. Homes today, give or take, you know, there's the, you know, adjustments for inflation and all that kind of stuff. But spending wise, it's a different number is my point. So back then, if I wanted $1 million in real estate, I realized, or I mean, if I wanted $1 million for retirement, all I had to do was buy $1 million worth of real estate. And eventually, if I did nothing else, it would be paid off free and clear, right? And I would have the equivalent of $1 million in real estate at whatever spending value that was in the future. It might be 5, it might be 10 million, right? But when you set a goal when you're younger, right, you know, having $1 million sounds great, but it's not that much today compared to what it was in 1991. If you set a goal to have a $10 million retirement, by the time you get there, it's gonna, maybe you achieve it, right? Through your 401k, your IRA, whatever it is it still gonna provide the same lifestyle that $10 million provides today? Probably not. So things change. And so I have another kind of like cool example in here to show you how things change. That's my new truck. That was my Christmas present to myself. Finally deciding to buy something new because believe it or not, I hate spending money. Although my wardrobe is top, I don't spend money on it much else. I've always wanted another truck. When I was landscaping, I always had trucks. I had a fleet of trucks. And when I got my real estate license, I had these big dually 1-ton trucks and all this stuff, and I couldn't take clients around in that. So I went and bought this Jeep Commander. I've been driving it for 14 years because it was paid off. It did the job, had a Hemi in it, got shitty gas mileage, but it was fast. And I really, really liked it. No, just kidding. I didn't. I hated it. I hated it. I liked that it was paid off. And it's like, I would like something else, but I don't need something else, right? Lynn and I have always kind of in our conversations touted ourselves as being the masters of delayed gratification, giving up something good now for something great later, right? If you can just delay this, go drive through Kearns and West Valley and Taylorsville and see how many of these you see parked in the driveway of renters. How many knows who David Bach is? He's a financial guy, the automatic millionaire. He's written a lot of books. He's got a quote that says, if your vehicle is worth more than your net worth, you're an idiot. But the timing of when I bought this is a lot different, right? Before I put the bed liner, the bed cover, and the clear bra wrap on it, this is what I paid at the dealer for that thing. Here's the difference though, what time does. My correlation to this is real estate, time, and these are two of many, many, many properties. I didn't need help getting this one. We wrote a check. How cool is that? Big difference. And don't bitch at me about what I could have invested the money in and stuff like that. It's my money. But you could have done this. Okay. Here's a visual that in my mind makes a lot of sense. Okay. This is time that's going by no matter what. I put effort and risk here because if we want that X factor for retirement or cash flow or whatever it is, the sooner we do things like that seller financing condo that we took over that only had 17 years left on it, done. In 17 years, I have a free and clear asset that I could either sell and send my kids to college, or she could rent it to roommates, and that was our thought, is rent it to roommates, have some income coming in. But this was guaranteed by me doing this. So and I don't care how old you are, what your age is, unless you're planning on dying soon, you got another, decades in you. Starting today, if you haven't done what you wanted to do, starting today is still the next best thing, right? Back to the tree analogy there. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today, right? Again, like 2024 is going to be your time you're looking back on in 5-10 years that, damn, I wish I would have done a little bit more.
Anybody that's looking at investing right now, I think there's gonna be some really amazing opportunities to do some of the creative things, but it's always looking at the best for the person that's going to sell the house. It can be a win-win situation, but I think those opportunities are definitely going to be there this year.
Yep. So in this growth curve here, who knows or could explain to me what the power of 72 is? Anybody ever heard that before? Dan.
Double something, so if you get eight times 9 is 72. So if you get an 8% rate of return, in 9 years, your money will double.
Exactly. So that kind of gives you a formula, right? If property values are going up X amount per year, how many years is it going to take them to double? It's compound interest, right? Einstein, I think, is the one credited for saying it's the 8th wonder of the world, right? Compound interest. When you think of that, when you think in terms like that, now you go, wow, well, what if I can control that property and only put 10% down? How long is it going to take me to double my money? There's also the value of the property, but my money, right? You put 10% down, that property only has to go up 10%, not 100%, and you doubled your money. So a lot quicker. So when you're thinking of future values and stuff, plug that in and think of that, because we use that as a guide when we were building our portfolio on our real estate, and it's like kind of projecting for it. If we do X, it's going to be worth this. Okay, but let's say looking back, sorry, Barbara, but say you're Barbara's age, which is super young still. She can't hear me, so I can say it. And you're looking back in your life and say, I screwed it all up, right? I'm still living paycheck to paycheck, no money for vacations, failed relationships. I have all this regret. I wish I would have, could have. I didn't do what I intended to do. That would be kind of a shitty place to be, right? When you get there, because we can't really start over, right? But you can, here's my little life hack. You can trick your mind to think a little bit different. Because we all think, oh, if we could do it all over again. I want to tell you a brief story of how this popped into my mind. I was listening to, I don't even remember who it was or if I even knew who it was, somebody talking with my dad, and I was like in the same vicinity listening to their conversation. And he was bitching and whining and moaning about everything. Those things that I wrote down came to my mind because I was hearing him say, you know, his kids don't even love him. They want nothing to do with him. He's still working a 9-to-5 shitty job. And he hasn't built anything. And he had all this regret. And he said, I wish I could do it all over again. I just wish I could do it all over again. You know what popped in my mind? Oh shit, what if this is my do-over? What if I did get to do it over again? And I'm as a punk kid thinking this going, oh, I better not fuck it up again this time, right? And so in my mind, I'm like, just treat this like you got a second chance, a second lease on life, right? Or you golf, it's a mulligan. Get a free drop, man, do it again, right? So that served me well. Again, I was saying some of these things don't seem to be about real estate, but they really do. If you're thinking of it psychologically on the purpose, the passion, and the why are you even doing what you're doing. So that was a big hack for me that really served me. Here's another one. Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can do what others can't. Whoop. You don't want me in there.
No, it made it sexy.
Okay. So since we still have our future life to look at, we're not looking back on having screwed it all up. Imagine a life where you have assets and income that are a hedge against inflation. You are paid indefinitely for the work that you do today. Generational wealth. I'm going to stop right here and give another example. Ashley, my oldest daughter, she was 26 years old when she bought her third property and owned her third property. She didn't buy and sell, and buy. So at 26 years old, we had a conversation on how she's already secured a retirement better than 90% of Americans at 26 years old. All she has to do is rent and maintain those properties for the next 30 years, which seems like, oh my gosh, it's so far out. But again, the work was done. She already did the thing. She bought a house, moved into it. Then they moved about 18 months, 2 years later, bought another one, another 18 months, 2 years later, bought a third one, but they kept those other two as rental properties. It's a great house hack to build a portfolio. If Ian started his portfolio that way, right? Ian is a great investor and a real estate agent now, but he started out as my client. And he's like, I want to do this thing. And so he was buying properties and he was living in it. He was fixing it up. He was renting out the basement and doing this thing, got it all set in play, moved into another one. And he's done that several times. And so at minimum, you or your clients should be doing that. It's harder when you have kids and they're in school and stuff like that. I get it, but we all work with clientele. It's like, I just don't know how I'm going to do it. I can't save up 20%, right? So give them another way. You be their creative mind and help them figure out another way to do it. Let's see what else we got for you. So you want a life free from worry about economic fluctuations, and we're experiencing that, right? You're not dependent on a job. You're free to do what you want, where you want, with whom you want. How many of you have heard that before? That's the ideal lifestyle, right? So because I started with our journey then and being very future oriented, being going, oh my gosh, this is going to pay off so great in 30 years. That's hard to do as a kid, right? But that's not all you do. I mean, you can wholesale, you can flip, you can get in real estate investing, and you can generate capital and do deals and do all the sexy stuff, but that's a job, okay? That's transactional. You're doing that and treat it as such, but it's not investing. That's not really even in the real estate investing category. That's like a day trader in the market versus a Warren Buffett buy and hold. Just never sell. It's just going to just continue to grow for me. That's an asset that I have in play, right? So buying and holding, although you're looking at it and saying, like Lynn and I did, our first 8 properties didn't cash flow except for that townhome just because of the circumstances in Provo with the students. But the other ones broke even, right? But that's not why we bought them, to steal a couple $100 a month from it and increase our income and spend it. One of the reasons we maintained such a handsome portfolio through the years is our real estate money stayed in real estate. It wasn't for us to spend, it was for our future. And so now we're at our future. So I'm gonna brag a little bit on some things you can do later. This is my pool. I know you guys never hear me talk about my pool, but but that's it. We just, we're almost done with a 2-year project. It was almost 3 years in design and engineering and everything before that. but this is about 2 years in construction. That's the detached garage to my house. It's got an apartment up here, nice little deck, storage room, and a big garage right there. And one of my favorites is my Hobbit house. I have a Hobbit house in the hill. It's not done yet. I still got a landscape in front of it and everything, but that's what it looks like today. Yeah, my grandkid magnet is what I call that. So here, look, Tony's in there. Did I tell you when sorry, I didn't get release rights on that. I didn't know you were going to be here. No. I was showing this at the UV RIA, and somebody says, "Is that Tony?" And I'm like, "Who are you? And why do you know my niece?" He used to live by you guys. I don't remember his name. So this is a grotto, right? It's a swim in. There's a little bridge right here for the track, and you can swim underneath here. Well, right here is the entrance to a tunnel that goes through this hill and comes out into the Hobbit house. And that's what it looks like inside. How cool is that? Lynn was super excited when I told her we were putting fiber optics in the ceiling of my tunnel.
Ever.
Right? So we've got a big pavilion right here. It's got a TV in it, 2 bathrooms, a laundry room. This is my outdoor kitchen over here. We got a fire pit right here. We're blessed to be on over an acre in East Draper. We're not going anywhere, obviously. This is our forever home. And that's kind of a cool situation to be into, is knowing that you live where you want to stay.
One of the best golf courses.
Right. Right. Okay. So another thing for you to ponder, we will find evidence to support what we already believe. So think carefully about what your thoughts are and what you believe, because you will find justification for it. And we all look for it, whether we know it or not. Subconsciously, you make a decision. It's like, yep, I was right. Yep, I was right. I see it everywhere. Yep. Whatever that might be. And if it's negative, you're still going to find the validation for that belief, because it's out there both ways. Like I said before, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, right? What are you going to believe? So if you believe there's no deals out there, there's not. If you believe you can't cash flow a rental property today, then you can't. And if you aren't capable of buying 10, 20, 50 properties, if you don't think you're capable, then you aren't. Done. Don't even need to stew about it anymore, right? So Wayne, how many know who Wayne Dyer is? Wayne Dyer? Stud. I love his stuff. He tells a story, I don't even know if it's his story or whatever, about 2 sets of people moving to a new city. And the first couple or person stops at a gas station, and they're all excited to be moving into their new home and stuff like that. And she asks the attendant there at the gas station, "Ooh, what are the people like here? We're moving here. We're relocating." And he says, "Well, what were they like where you're moving from?" And she said, "Oh, I hated them. Everybody's rude. Nobody makes eye contact. They just seem to be mean, and everybody's got a chip on their shoulder." And she goes off on all these negative things. He says, "You're going to find they're pretty much the same here." And then the next person comes through and asks the same question. "What are the people like here?" And he says, "Well, what were they like where you're moving from?" "Oh my gosh, we hated to move. They're the most amazing people ever. The people in my neighborhood are just amazing. The whole city has these community events, and they just all support each other. And I just love it there. Everybody's always so happy and cheerful." And he says, "You're going to find the people here are pretty much like that too." Right? You're going to find evidence for what you believe. So be careful on that. What time is it?
10 minutes.
48. Okay. Well, we're okay. Okay, so stop focusing on what you can't and look for ways that you can. I already told you about our first and our second purchases, right? Our first and our second purchases were accomplished by just sheer will and determination to get in the game and to do something, and we'll figure it out. Just get some momentum, get some action going, and move towards that what you want. I mentioned already in my investing my approach to those in foreclosure, those that were for sale by owner, even some that were being represented by agents, right? My methodology, or the way my methodology came about for doing lease options, was because when we bought our 7th or 8th property. It was a new house in Draper, and it was an owner builder that built it. I'm not even going to get into the story, but we ended up in a lawsuit. I got him to carry back 10% when I bought the house for just 1 year. During that year, the house was just falling apart. Like I said, I'm not going to get into all that. So when the year came, I didn't pay him. It's like, dude, you gave us a warranty on this brand new home where the first people live into it. And we have estimates north of $90,000 to fix everything in the house. So I didn't pay him his little 20 grand. And so we go to court and the judge says, hey, you got a promissory note here. It says you were going to pay him on this date. Did you pay him? I said, no. And he goes, summary judgment. Done. That's all it took. But we countersued because of the warranty, the honoring the warranty. And that hadn't started yet. So the judge says, you know what? Although I just issued judgment, I'm going to stay execution of that judgment. You don't have to pay him until we settle this other thing. And he points right at the guy and he says, because you're probably going to end up owing them money. And I don't want them to have to try and get it back from you. It still took 5 years. 5 years. In hindsight, we probably wouldn't do that again. But for us, it was a matter of principle. We're like, this son of a bitch has done this before, guaranteed, and he'll do it again. So we're just like, our white knight comes out and is like, we're going to stop him. Right? Yeah. So anyway, because of that, I had this lingering judgment against me. So my buying and getting conventional loans days were on hold because a judgment precedes recording of new acquisitions, even a refinance. This lady right here, unbeknownst to me, was taking our income from our landscaping and paying off our mortgages. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Didn't you see the slide about leverage? And so I had equity and I didn't have as much liquidity. So it was like, not a good situation. I couldn't even refinance and get my equity out unless I said, all right, I guess I got to pay the judgment, and then I can move forward. But I didn't do that for those reasons. So I learned about lease options. I learned how to control property without taking ownership. I was going to go into some examples, but because of the time, we can talk about it afterwards. But this is just showing some of the people that would consider something like that. Again, I would go to somebody and say, hey, here's the difference. I know a lot of investors want to do a seller finance. They want to get the deed to your property, this and that. Here's the reasons why you shouldn't do that. This is why I believe you should do a lease option and why I'm going to take care, especially with a landlord. They're a tired landlord. They still want the rental income. They just don't want to deal with the property anymore. They want the income coming in. And so we're like, okay, I'll be your master tenant. I'll be the tenant. I'm not going to live in it. So I have to negotiate a price where I can rent it for more, right? And so I did that a lot of times and I was controlling these properties. And over time, when you perform well with somebody, then the ask is, hey, can we turn this lease option into a seller financing so I can get on title, so I can season my payments and I can do a refinance later? Because I wanted to keep the property, but I didn't want to come up with the cash to exercise my option. Almost all of our portfolio was built by refinancing our input to the property and getting it back. Our first 7 or 8 were like purchase loans. We're like, this sucks. Down payment wise and stuff like that. So it was control and refinance. The Burr method, if you guys have heard about that, we did a ton of that. So I just appealed to their needs, right? And so I won't go too much into that, but that was super, super helpful for us. I heard this somewhat recently and I really, really liked it. Going back to your beliefs and stuff, if you change your inputs from the past, change the seed and the harvest will automatically change. Because as we know, if we plant an apple tree, we're going to get apples, not oranges, all the little metaphors that you hear and stuff. Whatever you're planting, whatever your seeds of success are, that's the harvest that you're working towards cultivating and harvesting someday, right? Ours was harvesting cash flow and equity and assets in real estate that we had predictability in, that we could say, hey, if we do this, this is what our 50s and our 60s are going to look like, right? And so we're living that right now. These are just some of the other lessons that we've learned, and I could go on for half an hour on each one of these. But these are some things for you to just ponder again. If you've heard the correlation of like, yeah, I'm interested in real estate, right? Yeah, I want to buy real estate. I need rentals. And thinking about it's not enough. You're either interested or you're committed. If you're not committed, you're not taking action. You're not thinking what the next stage is to actually do the thing that you're interested in. So daydreaming is great, but it has to lead to action. We already talked about delayed gratification. Shayna's not here, but James' wife Shayna gave me this one: swing the bat. You got to be in the game, and you have to swing the bat in order to get a hit, right? Base hit, double, home run, whatever it is. If you're not swinging the bat, why are you even in the batter's box, right?
Many offers did you put on houses for those lease options that you didn't get? So it didn't stop you, it just kept going.
Right, right. So that's a good point. Going back to what I start with, take people on your journey, right? If you want to buy a rental property, how many are you analyzing? How many are you crunching the numbers on to see if it would be a deal, which would then lead to writing up an offer, right? But how many are you actually looking at? Start with that. Get out and look at the properties. And maybe that's your journey you take people on, is by explaining to them your findings. I'm looking at this property for this reason, and it's not going to work for me because of my goals, because of this reason, or I put an offer on it, I got it, or I got whatever. But you have to start, like Lynn and I did, by getting out in the field and looking at properties, analyzing the numbers, and deciding if it's a deal for you or not. Because if you're not doing that, you're not writing any offers. You don't just write offers randomly and throw them on a property. Hopefully you've created a criteria for yourself for those rental properties. So that was a really, really good point. To me, don't set goals the old way refers to an old Wade Cook book. Do you remember Wade Cook? Back Robert Allen, Ron LeGrand, all those boys from the 80s, the old real estate guys. Wade Cook was one of those, and he's a finance guy too. He's got this little tiny book titled this, Don't Set Goals. Oh, no. That's the subtitle. It's like, all you can do is all you can do, but all you can do is enough because it's all you can do. That's a cool title, huh? But if you think about that, I mean, are we really doing all we can to reach our goals? Did we do everything? Oh, I tried everything. Did you? You know? So anyway, that's a great book. And it's another just mindset thing to ponder on doing all you can do. We're not in high school anymore, so it's okay to copy other people. Evidence of success works for you, Dan. I'm going to do it too, and I might get the same success. Copying people, modeling others' behaviors, get mentors and copy literally their evidence of success. What did they do to get where they are? Another important thing to think of is, who are you listening to when you're thinking of mentors? Have they done what you want to do? If they haven't, next. If you're talking to somebody about money and they make less than you, right? You want to talk to somebody that's going to level you up. How did you get where you are? Because I'm here and you're here. But if you're taking financial advice from somebody that isn't doing as well as you, then it's probably not qualified advice for you. It is for somebody, but not for you, right? And I'll just rip through the rest of these. I don't need to read them all. Let's see what one I might want to make a comment out on. Let's go to the end of this. Become a problem solver. Look for issues in the market, issues with people's lives, or whatever that you can propose a solution to and help them through what they're going through as a business model, right? And then those last two are on there because if you talk to investors that have been in the game for a little while and you ask them what their biggest regret is looking back on their investing career, most of them are going to say one of those two things. They're going to say, I should have bought more and I should never have sold the properties that I had. And so that's just something to think about. And it doesn't have to be all you do in real estate. Like I mentioned before, you can still flip and you can do partnerships and all this other stuff. But a portion of your investment activity should be to create a safe, secure, predictable retirement for yourself. So with that, another quote, I love quotes. Life is the C between B and D. B is birth, D is death, and C is choice. Isn't that awesome? I don't even remember where I heard that, but I really, really liked it. So somebody else, I'll give credit to somebody else. And anytime I do one of these things, I love book recommendations. When somebody says, oh my gosh, I read the coolest book, it changed my life, I buy it. There's got to be something in it for me, right? If it was life-changing for somebody. So these are some of my recommendations for you. Other than the normal, right? There's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There's The Richest Man in Babylon. There's The Millionaire Next Door. You're going to get those. And if you haven't read those, start with those, right? But the 1% Rule is an awesome book. It's just talking about we were talking about compounding interest, right? Slow incremental increases over time become just exponential changes in your life, whether you're doing that 1% daily in your relationships, your business, whatever it might be. Really, really good book. Another one is The Comfort Crisis. We believe, agree with me or not, but we live pretty cushy lives, Like I'm baking right now because the AC's not on, but usually we're in pretty good climate controlled rooms in our vehicles and we never get uncomfortable, whatever. So I cold plunge. I make myself uncomfortable on purpose, doing things that make us grow. And that could be even in real estate. We don't know what we don't know. If we're just getting started in real estate investing, it's scary. It seems more risky, but you know what? It's not risky to somebody that's done 1,000 deals. It's just a walk in the park. They can do that without even spending much effort on it at all, right? So start wherever you are. Another one I really loved, The Buddha and the Badass. G Cubed is another great one. The Gap and the Gain, Dan Sullivan, that's a really great one. A lot of us live in the gap. What that means is the gap is the difference between where we are and where we want to be. And we're always chasing that, right? We're in that gap and we're saying, oh, we're not there, we're not there, we're not there. But we're not looking back and acknowledging the gain we've made from the person we used to be. So that's a really good book. Gives you permission to give yourself credit for the growth you've already experienced and then participate in the growth that you're going to have in the future. Because the secret is you're never where you want to be. Once you get to where you used to think you wanted to be, you've changed that. And one of my favorites, if you want somebody that's really brass and kind of an ass, but he's got some really good points, is Shut Up, Stop Whining, and Get a Life. That's a great book. I loved it. I loved it. This is literally my last slide. This is Lynn and I's business plan. This is the model for pretty much everything we do. You can have everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. So go out there and serve people. And that also means in your real estate investing, if your approach is, what can I do for you? What is it you're looking to accomplish in this transaction? Let me see if I can find a way to give it to you, right? That's how the conversation should start. You not go in there with your offer and say, this is what's going to work for me. They don't give a shit, right? They've got an issue. If there is an issue and a problem, that's where you can shine because you can become that problem solver and you can focus on improving somebody's life and situation and invest in real estate. If you keep that in mind, it's like, I want this to be a win-win, right? I don't want it to just win and take this house from you or whatever, but how can I give you what you want? Maybe in a way that you never even thought of yourself, because I'm the expert in the area, right? So let's brainstorm on this and see if I can give you what you want. As James would say, the end. So do you want to do any Q&A right now, or should I move to Dan? Anybody got any? Let's take any couple of questions. Anybody got any comments or questions? Make something up.
So if you were starting over, like you were starting today,
Mm-hmm.
what's one thing you would do? And then also, would you, what do you think about like focusing on real estate, like out of state, that is like, the price point is less?
I think that's amazing. But when it comes to real estate, like you just said, what would you focus on? Pick something to focus on. Because if you're looking in multiple states and locally, and you're looking at multi-unit, you're looking at single family, you're doing this, your attention's pretty diluted. So those two questions go together. Pick something. Focus only on out of state. And what states? Is it Tennessee? Is it Florida? Whatever. And if you're investing for cash flow, there's some great opportunities there, and there's some differences versus investing local. But starting over, kind of the same thing, is niche down, create an avatar of who you're going to approach that's going to help you accomplish your investing goals. You want to build that portfolio or whatever. Mine, well, when I was, I'll give you an easy example, is when I was a real estate agent, my avatar was people losing their homes. Some of them turned into listings because the bank wouldn't do a modification, but I built a referral business. My avatar for a buyer was those that wanted to buy and hold, not flippers, not wholesalers, those types of real estate investors, because that just wasn't my thing. It was those that want to build and buy and build a portfolio of real estate. So in investing, it's the same type of thing. What kind of product are you going to go after? Lynn and I, we chose starter homes. So most of our homes are 3-4 bedrooms, in that just under the median price for affordability, because we wanted to buy and hold, and we didn't want vacancies. We wanted the product that everybody's flocking to, especially in the downturn. If they bought too much, they were downsizing. And we also get the apartment dwellers and the condos and the townhomes that don't want to share walls anymore, all come into our product, right? We've got a handful of properties that have tenants in it that have been with us over 10 years. Unfortunately, our longest term tenant just passed away last summer, but he's been with us 22 years. That's just the product we chose. So it was clear. And we were flipping along the way, but it was always the same product. I bought to hold. If somebody wanted to buy it, I would sell it and I would go buy something else. And so those became my flips, but I always bought to hold, and I knew what product I was looking at. I knew that area, that price range, that market really, really well. I could make fast decisions. So that's what I would do, is niche down, find a product, go after that. You can change it later. But to get started, for your question, is start with either an avatar of a seller, a problem that you have a solution to, or the product itself, the type of house. And then there's a myriad of ways to find where those houses are.
Got a question. So initially you're managing these properties because you only have 1 or 2 or 3, and it's simple to some degree, but it gets to a certain point where it's like, okay, I need to maybe have someone else manage it.
Mm-hmm.
What's that overall cost, and how is that a good thing, and when do you do that?
I think it's an amazing thing. And if I were you, I would hire it out. And I say that because we don't.
So it can be about 10% of what your income is. And depending on the property manager, they can charge about 20% on top of the maintenance the maintenance cost. So let's say you need a new furnace, they would add their 20% on top of that. So
Any repairs and
Mhm.
yeah, that kind of thing. We have a really good guy, if you want one, that just started his own, that used to manage for a big company.
Mhm.
Some people like to have control over those things. Others are just, this is my side gig. So having a property manager take care of it is really good for you. For us, I like to turn my tenants into homeowners as part of my real estate program.
Yeah.
So I like to find people that need a new start, which you see on the window. New start properties is our thing. And it helps me find the type of people that I'm looking for. And it's also my way of changing people's lives, which feeds me. I can't do that with a property manager. I have one, and I couldn't do that. So if you do get your real estate license, that is something you could do. If you don't want to do the property management, then of course you just hire it out, especially if it's out of state.
I suggest a hybrid for people just starting out. And just a suggestion. I mean, do whatever. Some people buy their very first property and they hire a property manager. I suggest you do the first several, maybe say 5 or whatever, yourself. Learn how to manage the properties, because when you go to hire somebody, they're just like lenders and real estate agents that are right. They're different. Their experience and their knowledge and their background is what you're hiring. So you, in my opinion, need to know what you're hiring for. And having been in that position before, you're going to listen a little bit differently when you're interviewing property managers, and you're going to spot things like, hey, I ain't hiring him. Right? And you're going to ask different questions and stuff. So your first few, for sure, in our opinion, is you should do it yourself and just figure it out.
If it's something you guys do, you always need to come to and ask questions, because again, another thing we both love to do is mentor and help people. So it would be a pleasure to help you do that.
Yeah, I say to people all the time, one of the greatest thing about working with me is you get access to her. So let's do this thing.
So if you're going to control a property and find a lease option in the next 90 days, what would be your favorite target places to find it?
Good question.
So I found a ton. So Eric's question, I have the little mic right here if you didn't hear that. He says, if you wanted to focus on controlling property and maybe doing that lease option strategy, in the next 90 days, where would you focus on to get those? So I would call for sell by owners that have been trying to sell for a little bit. The conversation goes like this. It's like, hey, I noticed your house for sale. It's been on the market for a little while. Have you considered renting that property? Well, you're going to get all kinds of answers, right? Well, if I don't sell it by June, I have to rent it because I'm moving. And so I'm going to be forced to rent it. Or that opens the door. Now we've got that two components together. You set up an appointment. You call landlords, preferably mom and pop landlords like Lynn and I, to get that tired landlord that was on that slide. That's renting their property and say, hey, I noticed your property's been for rent for a month or two, maybe they have a vacancy or whatever, if you're tracking it that way. And you said, have you ever considered selling it? They're either going to say, hey, I would love to sell it. I'm done with this piece of shit. I want out. Or they're going to say, nah, the timing's not right. I might sell it later.
Look for the for rent signs, if you ever see one, the old landlords are still putting them up in their yard. You know what I mean?
The for rent signs with the Sharpie.
True.
Yep. So for sell by owners that are selling, ask them if they'd consider renting and you'd buy it later. For rent properties with those types of landlords, and have you considered selling, and find out what their answer is. If they're a buy and hold, never selling. I mean, if you called Lynn and I, we're not a candidate for a lease option, right? But you will find people. I even had my brother making phone calls for me on that. And I was buying a minimum of one property a month from his phone calls. Not bad. He was just calling for sale by owners and calling landlords that were renting and see if we could marry the two concepts together. And then he would set up an appointment. I would go in there and talk to him and tell him how we could accomplish that. And so taking a landlord's property and guaranteeing rent, taking care of all of the maintenance, and you've got a price that you're going to have the option to buy down the road, can be appealing to the right type of person. It's like anything else. You're not trying to appeal to everybody. You're not trying to find the masses that are all doing the same damn thing. It's the niche. It's the avatar. Who am I calling? Why am I calling them? You don't call the rest. If that's your goal to get one in the next 90 days, call those two people every day, and you'll get one probably this month. That's a problem that needs to be solved. Some people are going to be really frustrated with the people that are approaching them that want to capitalize on their misfortune. So you have to have an approach like mine was. I'm not calling to buy your house. I want to see if I can help you save it. Do that. Do that. If you want to buy a property, don't try and buy a property. Try and help people. That would be my approach with notice of defaults, because it was my approach. And by doing that, they may not have a situation where they can stay. And now it's like, call Jeff, let's brainstorm. How can I get them this much equity and do a seller finance or a lease option and put this deal together and get them on their way and give them some of their equity and some of their dignity? Because I have a very strong opinion of some of the investors out there that are going into this situation trying to get every freaking nickel out of these people they can, so that they can charge up a nice wholesale fee, and then they can sell it to the flipper who's going to then mark that up. And all of those in between don't include the seller. So just be different. Don't follow the herd. Just do something and be that phone call that's a breath of fresh air. And you may not get that one. You may not get that one. You may not get that one. But then you might get a referral. You may not get that one, and then you're going to get this one. You know what I mean?
Really vibrational energy. They can feel the fact that you actually really care. It makes a really big difference if you're really coming from there.
You want to leave those appointments. Your goal is to have them know 110% that you had their objectives above your own.
So a lot of properties they don't let you rent out through moratorium, say you can only have 25% or something like that. So if you lease a property, is that part of that? You know what I'm saying?
You're talking about
If
HOA.
you buy a condo, they say you can't rent it out, you have to own it.
So don't call on those if you want rentals.
So you can go and do that. That's most of them now.
Well, then don't buy in HOAs, buy single family homes, buy in PUDs that allow it. Yeah.
So if you lease it,
You could do it and try not to get caught, but if the HOA has rules that it's not intended to be a rental property, or they're at their threshold and they're not allowing any more rentals or whatever, just move on and find another subdivision.
Well, then you're gonna have a hard time refinancing.
Exactly, if it's non, yep.
Financing.
Yeah, ultimately, yeah.
There's lots of different rules. You just need to know what they are, because whoever understands the rules best wins.
Like, why can you stop me from renting at least 25% of rent? So I'm gonna fight that later.
And yours is
Yeah.
a single family house, it's not
Right.
a townhome or a condo, so you have to watch that there's.
Mhm.
subdivisions
I'll
like
fight
this.
that.
So just pick your product.
That's why, you know, you can buy, you can't
Mhm.
rent out.
Right. Well, and some that you could have an ADU in, it only if you live there, right? You can't have a separate ADU and rent out the house or the upstairs because that's a multi-family unit. So again, just know the rules of the municipalities that you're looking in, and that just narrows your focus on the product that you're going after because you know you can do what your objective is to do.
I just want to have a way around and make.
No, it's not worth your time. It's too much work to try and circumvent, the rules. Just find another property. Yeah.
How long is your, was your average lease usually?
As me as the master tenant, I always got 5 years with the right to renew for another 5.
So you're controlling that property for that 5 years, right to renew for another 5, and that gives them rent that entire time. They don't
Guaranteed.
do anything.
Yep.
And we can tell you everything that can go wrong, so.
But guess what? I didn't factor in rent increases either. It was a long-term lease, right? So, there's pros and cons to all of this stuff. I mean, I can go into why certain ones don't work and what does work and this and that. That's the micro of the transactions that we can get into when on a specific property, because there's so many hypotheticals and variables of what could happen. But a lot of times I would start with the lease option, like I said, and I would approach them later. I'm now like, I've been doing what I said I was going to do. And so when I asked them to turn it to a seller financing, the terms never changed. It was just now a bilateral contract instead of a unilateral contract, because on an option, I don't have to exercise it. I can just walk away. We did walk away from one in like 2010. It's a beautiful home, but our option was up and we couldn't get a loan. We had 60 of them on our credit report. Can you believe that? And so we literally just gave it back to them. It was just, they weren't willing to do a seller finance. They weren't willing to do anything. They were one of those landlords. It's like, hey, thanks for getting me through that shitty time. I got it from here. Yeah. So did I answer your question? What?
Yeah.
Well, say the question again. I want to make sure.
It's like the average length of
Oh.
time, you said 5.
Yeah. So back then, Lynn mentioned our corporation was called New Start Properties. We didn't just rent our properties. We also gave our tenants an option. So I had 5 years, I would give 3 to my tenant, because if they didn't perform, I had time to do another tenant. But the value is later turning it into a seller financing after you already proved your worth and your credibility and making the payments and taking care of the property and all of this kind of stuff, is you have more options. Because now you can direct sell that puppy, or after you season some payments as an owner, now you can refinance it and put it in your portfolio. As an option, I mean, a lot of people were doing it back in the day, but it's kind of illegal to take the new buyer's money to buy your purchase, the simultaneous close that way. You actually have to bring the money to the table and close on your transaction, then the buyer brings his money to the table. So it's just, there's a little bit more difficulty in that. So you eliminate that by getting title down the road.
Increasing the price.
Yeah. Yep.
So
The option price is.
You're leasing it, then you froze the $400,000 price
Mhm.
for 5 years.
And some people will do that because you're solving a problem. Like the example I gave, and that was quite common, of a for sale by owner that didn't want to use a realtor. They have a deadline. If this doesn't sell by X for this, I have to rent it because I need this much money out of it. So I say, I'll give you that much money in somewhere between now and the next 5 years.
What was your favorite way to find those for sale by owners? Just driving around?
Outdoors.
So, yeah, signs, ads. I mean, right now with the internet, this is like, I'm old, dude. This is before the internet. We had these printed things called newspapers. that you would like literally, they would pay for a little ad, like, and have the terms of their for rent or their for sale in there. Just a phone number is all you need. Call, where are they advertising those things? So online sites where you advertise your rentals for rent, there's homeowners that are advertising in those sites too. Yeah. Okay, Dan, come on up here. Sorry, his sign's been up there. Hopefully you've all scanned the QR code. You've subscribed to his newsletter. All that's done because he's been up there.
QR code up there. That's amazing.
Ashley. We love Dan. Dan.harding's with Intercap Lending. He sponsored lunch for us here today, which was very awesome and generous. And it's my way to just lure him in here too, because yeah, he provides good lunches. And so I'm like, Dan. No, we love Dan as a person too. Dan done quite a few loans for us personally. And we met him when he was with a previous lender. But Dan, tell those people that don't know who you are and what you do and maybe how you can help them.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, let's hear it for Jeff. That was.
Just hold that.
Yeah, breath of fresh air. And Lynn, how many people own 60 properties that manage it themselves? No one. No one.
Not you crazy people.
One of one.
I have a really good employee, Nikki. She saved my life.
So anyways, thank you so much for the opportunity. But I know I'll be quick. I'm with Intercap Lending. I love what I do. I called on a listing agent this morning. There's multiple offers. My buyer we're doing Utah housing, FHA. I called him and he said, "Oh, Intercap, I love Intercap. I work with you guys all the time." And I've done mortgages for 17 years. And like, that was like music to my ears. Like I worked mostly with big banks where like, it was frustrating because I would be the guy that I would give people a fully underwritten approval, give them the best chance and like, they wouldn't get their offer accepted. So I'm aligned now with a lender, that direct lender. We have our own underwriters, processors. We control the process from the beginning to the very end. And we do construction loans now, 1-2 time closes, lot loans, bridge loans, anything out there. So if there's ever anything I can do for you, let me know. Okay.
Awesome. Any questions for Dan? So you mentioned construction loans. Do you do rehab loans?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
One product, two? How many products?
We do FHA, USDA has one. Just
Do y'all
conventional.
Know what a rehab loan is? It's kind of a hybrid, I guess, from a construction loan and a purchase.
Yeah,
loan.
essentially,
what that is.
they'll go off the future value of the home. So you have to have like a plan in place and like permits. Okay, this is the work we're going to do. We'll have an appraisal done based on those future improvements being done. So you take a $350,000 home, you're going to do 50 grand in improvements. We have a future value of 400,000. We will lend off of that 400,000. So it's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what's your LTV on your loans?
I'm gonna have to check. I think 25% down, so 75% LTV. Yeah, that's a tough product.
So I was asking.
Lot of risk. Okay. Yeah, a lot of risk involved in those. And they're meant to be short-term too. Like, it's not a long-term play. They want them to be like 1 to 2 years, so that you should have a builder lined up. So. Yeah.
What about DSCR loans?
We do them. Yeah, we broker them out. DSCR, everyone knows what DSCR is? No. DSCR, you have an investor that cannot prove income. We will lend based off of just the rent on that property itself. It's very simple, straightforward, and it doesn't even have to cash flow. Like we'll do, if the rent is 75% of the mortgage payment, there's an approval for that. So it's basically a way to help investors, self-employed, people who cannot prove their income to qualify for lending that they wouldn't otherwise get. So you could, back when you bought your first property, you could have done a DSCR loan.
Yeah, for sure.
Hypothetically. Yeah.
Probably pulled out some money.
Yeah.
And then what did it go? Just kidding.
Yeah.
Do you have a DSCR product that'll bundle loans? Multiple properties?
You can go up to 10 properties on a DSCR, which is nuts to me. 10 units, I mean. You get
10 units or
10
10
units.
Can it be 10
10 units.
individual units? 10 single family homes?
Yeah,
So 10 units.
yeah. It's wild. And it's just nice to know, like, think of me as like a one-stop shop. If there's a problem, an issue out there, let's run it through and see if we can find an investor to match up with that. The rate, it's not going to be cheap, but it's going to be a way to get it done. So, yeah, the brokered loans, they're expensive, but it's a way to, ITIN loans. If someone doesn't have a social security number, there's a way for them to get financing. Like, there's help out there. Yeah.
Super cool. And Dan's really great on communication and really being there throughout the transaction, stuff like that, and just an awesome dude. So
Dan and I first met when I was in a very big hole that I was trying to dig out of and couldn't dig out very easily. He did not modifications, he did streamline refis on all of Marchant's mortgages, almost all of them.
Almost all of them, yeah.
Which was over 20.
Yeah.
And
That was fun
something
entering
that-
in your information 20 different times. 60
I can't even get people to do it once, dude.
Yeah, but he got to experience the Lynn and Jeff that we were then trying to fight, a massive loss on a monthly basis, thinking we were going to lose that beautiful home that you just saw to the people that we are today because of the fight we just kept fighting, and we didn't give up, and we didn't screw up our credit. We made sure people were always paid, even when it meant we might not eat good food.
And I could see, and you sense that about people. You just salt of the earth, and people will do anything for you because they see that that's how you are in return. Like you're saying, like you do things, you get everything you want if you just help people. If that's your main goal, like everything will work out.
Well, I think the biggest push for me that I saw was different than most of the people that actually lost their investments was that I didn't want 60 people to go without a home because people were keeping the rents and they weren't making the mortgage payments. And so I just pictured all of these people depending on me, that if I didn't make my mortgage payments, then they wouldn't have a home, their children wouldn't have a home. And that was my main driver right there.
Yeah. There's a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah.
So another cool thing about that, I mentioned earlier, you don't know what you don't know, right? We didn't know a product like that existed because everybody we talked to said, we can't refinance your properties. This is after they changed all lending criteria after 2008. I mean, our lines of credit just got closed. Banks were just like in panic mode, right? And we didn't know that Freddie Mac had a program to where we could refinance their product. I mean, I think he changed our annual cash flow by around $40,000 by doing this series of refinances, because it was like over $3,000 a month, I believe.
Well,
by
one of
those
them were
properties.
close to 7 and 8% interest, and he went down to 4.75.
Yeah.
It was massive for us.
Hey, I'll take all the credit. It wasn't. I'm just the guy entering in the info. It was a great program.
Super cool. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah,
Appreciate you,
thank
brother.
you.
Okay, guys. Anybody on Zoom have any questions, comments before I cut you loose? I'm glad you stuck with this. What's that?
Snow Dan loans in Washington State.
Yes.
Yes, Kathy.
Oh, you do?
Kathy
I
Ray.
get, could you send me
Kathy
emails?
Ray, he does
You send me
loans in
emails a
Washington
couple times
State.
a week. I'm on your email list. You send me emails
Hi,
all the
Stacy.
time. I didn't think you were in Washington State though.
Damien, how are you, stud? Okay, guys, next time, well, Stacy, it's a long drive for you. Kathy, we got Oregon, Washington. Would love to have you for lunch, but whatever. Damien, come in person.